The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
You're listening to the Sports Scramble podcast, where four friends serve up a weekly plate of sports with a side of SEC bias. Now, here are your hosts, Chet, Jacob, Wade, and Tyler.
Let's go!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's episode of the Sports Scramble podcast, brought to you by Belly Up Sports. It's Monday, July 3rd, a day before July 4th. Tyler, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good. You know, we had a week off, our summer vacation, as you will. We had a lot of going on, especially in the sports world. So we're back here, only with two of us. Well, every week it feels like you don't know how many you're going to get. You're going to get four, you're going to get three, you're going to get two, or one. This week you're going to get two, but we do have a bonus guest, which I'm very excited.
Exactly. We've got good old NASCAR Neil coming on the show. Let me bring him in. Neil,
hey guys,
how's it going? It's been a little while. Been a little bit.
It's going good, man. Coming off a week at the track, and then 2 weeks ago, then back last weekend at the first ever race at Chicago Street Course. So doing pretty good.
Exactly. Hey, and we appreciate you coming on. I know you're in the middle of your 4th of July festivities. Neil's actually in the gym over by the pool getting in so he can hop on the Sports Scramble live show. So we appreciate it. You mentioned that you went to the race last weekend. Tell us about it. You sent us some pictures. You had great seats. What happened? How was it?
It was a great race. It happened to be my birthday. Me and my dad. I flew into Nashville, where I'm born and raised. I wanted to go with my dad. So he got me in NASCAR as a kid. Like, hey, Dad, let's go. We decided to go. Had awesome seats right in the restart zone. Going out of turn 4. Great race. I know we weren't able to get a set because y'all weren't on last week, but it was a good race. It's a 1.5 mile track, which as the last 2 years have been producing really good racing. Stage 1, Tyler Reddick got the thing. Then going to stage 2, it was we had some solid 3-wide racing for about 3-4 laps with Truex, Reddick, and Byram. I was kind of mad because I was in the beer line when it happened. I was like, oh, and I happened to be on Twitter like, oh, this happened. I'm kind of bummed I'm here. I missed it, you know. But back to my seats, though, it was awesome. Middle of the stage during green flag stops, Reddick lost a tire coming onto pit road where he just did a stop and they didn't quite get his tire quite tight. So he's come back down to get it tightened up and he loses it going in there, spins out. You know, it was kind of wild, and I laughed because as it happened, my dad was coming back up the stands. He's like, oh, what happened? I'm like, oh, yeah, this happened. You know, it was kind of wild and fun. Then caution went out. Then that restart, middle of stage 2, some guys got lucky who hadn't quite pitted yet. They were waiting for the caution, got the caution. But on the restart, there was a weird issue with William Byron and Brad Quay. Brad Quay either missed a gear or something like that and ended up sending name slipped my mind. It was Ryan Blaney, actually. Sorry, the name slipped my mind, but he ended up.
It's not good. You're partaking in the 4th of July festivities, so we understand if your details are a little foggy.
No, but Ryan Blaney though ended up getting wrecked and ended up hitting the wall in an area of the track that did not have the safer barrier, which was a foam piece on the wall, on outer walls of all the tracks to help cushion the blow. And the section wall he hit didn't have a safer barrier, so it was kind of a hard hit, and there was even talks of whether or not he was concussed or whatnot because these barriers are made. They've got a big inflammation post 2001. You know,
I saw that wreck. It looks pretty rough there.
Oh, it just showed from the car down. I was like, oh, and I looked at my dad. I'm like, I'd be shocked if you race next week because it's just a hard hit in air that wasn't protected by the barrier. You know, and it's a conversation we haven't really had in a while. But apparently they have I think it's the University of Nebraska they work with to determine where wrecks like that happen. But as I think I forget who's a famous driver back in the day said 10 years ago said like NASCAR cars will always find the spots not protected.
Which for sure. When you're going that fast, man, you can't. It's hard to not hit somewhere.
It's going to turn 1. Like if there's a wreck on a restart, that's air going to be hit. Like how'd that not happen? Which even led into this week. We're at Chicago Street Course. There was no safer barriers on the entire track because of street courses. There's not the room for the safer barriers because they take up about an extra 1.5 feet of space on the walls, you know. But going into the race, though, Chicago, I will say I was a big doubter of the race. thought it was going to be terrible racing, thought the corners were too tight, whatnot. I was shocked and impressed by the race. Like, I'm happy with it. I was a hater to begin with. I'm like, what are we going to go on the street course? That's not NASCAR's thing. I get what you're trying to do, get new fans, but we need to get fans coming in on our bread and butter, which is ovals. But it ended up being a good race. Like, there was a lot of passing zones. Even some drivers, such as Denny Hamlin, were saying there were more passing zones at this track than Sonoma, where we were at 2 weeks ago on the racetrack, So it was a pretty good race. I was impressed with Chicago.
Yeah, I saw some of it. I liked seeing it through the streets. Like you mentioned, they do it to kind of get some more fans. People like myself who don't follow NASCAR every week, it was cool to see it through the streets of Chicago and be a street race. Is something new. Switch it up. I saw that Mr. Shane Van Gisbergen, I think I said his name right, won the race. So first time racer.
Yes,
so.
He was. He was running under the Project 91 car from Trackhouse, which happened to win Nashville last week. It's a kind of a thing that Justin Marks, the team owner, created for the superstars of other series around the world to come into NASCAR. It's an open point for you guys to do it. The last year, Kimi Räikkönen, the former F1 champion, ran at Watkins Glen and Coda this year. But SVG, he's a 3-time V8 Supercar champion in Australia, which their cars are very similar to NASCAR Cup cars. Each series have kind of inspired each other on their car design, and it was a pretty good similar, and he hopped in, he qualified third. Like, the guy coming this year qualified third. It wasn't like he qualified late and got lucky. This man was fast
right
on all day Saturday. Like, he was good. And he even pitted late. And on his last run, he went up from 18th to first. And it was really battling up. And I was laughing watching it. Was before he got to first, the leaders was Justin Haley and Austin Dillon, who are both known for their prowess on the plate tracks. I was like, what's going on here? We got Justin Haley and Austin Dillon who have both have wins on Daytona. Justin Haley only has one win. It was at, I believe, Daytona or Talladega. And Austin Dillon, who's known for winning at Daytona, or he has one win at Charlotte, the 600. But like, these guys are not known for their road course prowess, and they were up front. I was like, and even Justin Haley qualified, started last place and worked his way up to second. Like, it was in a spot, just had older tires, and he even said, like, I had older tires, I had 16 older tires, and they were kind of a factor in the race. So it was pretty impressive, But yeah, overall, it was a really good race.
Well, I'm glad that it kind of blew your expectations out of the water there. This was your first race that you caught in person, right? Last week at Nashville. So
yes, it was.
You got any other ones planned coming up?
I've got Texas in September. My local track to where I live. It's 2 miles down the road from where I live. And I drive. I literally get dinner by it once, twice a week. It's right in my backyard. But I want to go back to you, Chet, how you said earlier how this was a race that got you into it. The cool thing about this race was because there wasn't a designated track, though, the drivers were staying in teams. They were staying locally at hotels around the track. So they were walking to the racetrack every day for the race. So fans are interacting with them as they were walking the tracks. And they have a lot of drivers who were walking from their hotel off Michigan Avenue. And fans like, oh, hey, it's Chase Elliott, it's Ross Chastain, it's Dennis Suarez. These guys are walking there. Or even team guys who are walking to get cars ready. They're being stopped because they're in their uniforms, kind of thing, and NASCAR uniforms, they kind of remind me of like fishing shirts, kind of, they're very lightweight, kind of all the sponsors all over, not necessarily the fire suits, but they're in their stuff, and it was a very big thing with a lot of drivers who they'll make appearances at normal racetracks, you may see them, but everywhere you go, they're there, And another thing about this race that I thought made it what it was that it was unprecedented rain this week in Chicago. It was a lot of rainstorms this weekend, to the point the Xfinity race Saturday got postponed to Sunday, and they ended up having to call it 2 laps short of being official because of the rain. And they ended up actually in the Cup race by 25 laps because there were no lights and whatnot. But because of the rain, they were having to start on rain tires, which they had for the road courses and these flat ovals, trails, was it added more strategy to it. Was you had guys who would gamble first to go to slicks because the track was drying out as it went on, and you had some guys who gambled early for slicks and having to try to manage that, or guys who went longer on the wet tires, having to try to find the water to keep them cool because the wet weather tires, they're softer tires, they'll heat up quicker. So if you're going the longer, you're trying to find the puddles, you can cool them off a little bit, I know me, you are, and both of us are engineers, and we've got a little bit of thermo in our lives a little bit, so we kind of know some of that stuff, But yeah, it was kind of fun, and it added to it where you had some guys who were gambling and going longer. And you had some guys who gambled quick. It's like, once it got dry enough, they thought they went to slicks, and some guys spun out. And this track, like, there was not a lot of runoff. Like, there were some tight turns and tire barriers. There was a big issue a while of cars getting stuck up under the tire barriers, where there's these groups of tires that are all chained together, and cars would get stuck up under the tires. They'd hit them and go up under them. But then even Kyle Busch, who hit him on lap 4, ended up like in the top 5 of the race this week. He hit him. There wasn't a lot of damage to his car. His car was safe and went back in. Yes, he did gamble on the short. He did pit early thinking they were going to short the race, but still, it's one of the things. It was kind of cool. Like, I'm excited for next year to see if they end up going back. It is an issue. They did have a 3-year contract, but the city can opt out if they very well choose to, But
right.
A lot of the press early on is like a lot of new fans were showing up, and some of them were showing up just for the concerts because Saturday night was supposed to be the Chainsmokers. Some fans apparently bought the tickets just to go to the concert, but then they kind of missed out, and it was, but still, like, overall, the overwhelming is people are saying it got a lot of new fans eyes on it.
It's growing the sport. That's always a good thing,
Yeah,
some good publicity there. Growing the sport, just like Live Golf. It's like a Live Golf version of NASCAR there in the street.
But even I saw this past week on Twitter, is that to please the old school fans, which I associate myself with the older school fans, even though I'm on my 20s and I still associate myself with the old school fans, But NASCAR, somebody said, NASCAR did something this year on the schedule to please both. We went to Wilkesboro a month ago for the All-Star race, which pleased the old school fans. It's the old school track from the race in the 90s. They pleased them, but they also did Chicago for the new school fans. They did something for both sides to help get both sides. And that's a solid move. Like, I'll give them that. Like, cool. You please the old school fans who love the whole history of Wilkesboro. Then you get the new school fans in Chicago. And apparently there's now talks of going to, other places like Denver wants one. Apparently Denver's a top city for them to go to, which I'm all for, as long as you're not adding more than one of these things. To me, one of these a year is cool. You gotta find the fine line into what's changing it too much and what's bringing in just something new. It's neat that they do it near the All-Star race, because that was about a month and a half ago. All-Star race was end of May.
Right, so it's he's still kind of in that All-Star mood. But
and
I know
this is also.
Oh, I think we're losing you there, Neil. The connection's going in and out.
Oh yeah.
So, but we don't want to keep you too long. We want to get you back to the pool party before the fireworks start going off.
There's something I do want to say though.
Okay.
Something I do want to say this though is that NASCAR, it's with their media deal. It's the first half is presented by Fox, another half's NBC,
right.
And we're now the second week of the NBC. I missed last week's, and it's amazing how much professional NBC is. It's amazing seeing what they did. In this race, though, they actually were smart. They went radio style, which is where they have people in every corner of the track to talk about, and they pass it on from each person to another, which is how the radio broadcast. And they were brought in one of the radio broadcasters from the other, because there's 2 radio networks that broadcast. Half the tracks are done by one team, there's the other side. And they brought in one of the broadcasters, Mike the Bagman, as he's known.
Okay.
And stuff. And they put him in the race corner, and him doing this made the product of the race was amazing. It's awesome. Chicago, great time. It was funny. They kept on mentioning is one of the broadcasters played basketball, and he played for the Cavs back in the day during the Jordan era Bull Run. The Bulls were good. I'm trying to remember his name, but as a big time basketball, he co-owns the 47 team. And so, and they're making a bunch of jokes like, "Hey man, are you even welcome in this city? Like, how are you?"
Right, exactly. He's a rival. He can't be coming into Chicago.
And then you even have Jordan, who co-owns a team in the sport. It's just kind of funny. I'm trying to remember his name. I kind of feel bad I don't remember his name, but it's, but he co-owns the 47 team, but he does NBC broadcasting. It's like, and they were just giving him they're giving him crap the entire day. It was just it's very well done broadcast, professional.
Right.
And there were some cool shots of this race of them coming across. There's an overpass that goes across the train tracks coming off Michigan Avenue. There's some cool shots of it. It was very, very well done. It was awesome to see. And I'm looking forward to Atlanta this week. We go off the street course back to Atlanta, the mile and a half super speedway track, and we're kind of going into the late summer series. As we round down towards August when the regular season ends. We're just over halfway the season. So I'm looking forward to it. The playoff battles are racking up. So things are getting good here.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the NASCAR season's in full swing. We got the playoffs coming up soon, so of course we'll have you on some more once we get a little closer to preview the playoffs and get your picks like we did last season.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to come on following Daytona here in August. Right for the playoffs. So I'm hoping to come back on here to recap the regular season kind of thing. I'm excited. It's shaping up good. I'm hopefully, Chet, maybe I'll get you to come up here for the race.
I might make a trip up there to catch the Texas race.
Wade's already talking about it. Wade said he might come up here for it, so I might get both of you guys to come up here for me. I mean, for you, it's only 2 hours. It's only 2 hour drive for you, Chet, so it ain't too bad out of the way for you.
Exactly. Well, we'll have to see what I got going on. Maybe I'll catch a race. I'm going to try to. We'll get Wade. Maybe we'll get Tyler to tag along. We'll get the whole Sports Scramble crew up there. We'll get some merch, sling some merch.
Hey,
some pictures
like I said, y'all can crash on my couch if we got to.
Exactly,
man.
Well, Neil, we appreciate you coming on. Get back to your pool parties. Stay safe. Watch out for the fireworks.
We'll do.
Yep. Get you some beer going and enjoy it. So appreciate you coming on, Neil.
Have a good one, guys.
Same to you.
Bye, guys.
So Tyler, NASCAR Neil never disappoints. Always a good time with the NASCAR recaps, and he finally got to go see the race in person. So it's always fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in for our NASCAR recap. But Tyler, we're back to our baseball. LSU, of course, like you said, we had the week off last week. Picked a bad week because our Tigers brought it home. We got the national championship, World Series. I mean, was there any doubt, Tyler, that LSU was going to pull it off?
I mean, if you were to say that after getting beat 24-4, there was definitely some doubt, especially after that game. But let's just go game by game. I did this on Bayou Bingo Bites, but you still have yet a chance to. So game one, Ty Floyd, what an outing by him. 17 strikeouts. Not only breaks the record, but he also tied the record too. So we've been talking about it. The bullpen, the pitching staff was the reason that his LSU team was here. And then K. Beloso does it again. I feel like in every game, it was a clutch home run. The Wake Forest game, get a 3-run bomb, and then game number 1 in the 11th inning. And there were some plays in that game where you could have circled that Josh Pearson catch that saved the game from ending.
I think it really did.
I did. I thought that ball was over his head. But then you go into game 2, Nate Ackenhausen was the starter. He was okay. And then they went to Blake Money for a batter, and then he gave up 2 hits. And then after that, they brought in Gavin Guidry in Florida and Ty Evans.
The pop-up grand slam.
That really opened up the door. And after that, it was like all the chances that they had with the bases loaded. There was 3 straight innings where they left the bases loaded. And then they went to Sam Dutton and Christian Little. Once you saw them on the mound, Jay Johnson was waving the white flag. He was just pretty much saving it for game number 3. And boy, did they save their best. I mean, after LSU women's basketball put up 102, LSU put up 18. I feel like they said, it doesn't matter who's on the field. We're going to beat you anyways. That's just how good LSU played. Thatcher Hurd in the first inning gives up a 2-run bomb to Wyatt Langford, and you're like, okay, here we go again. We're going to need the offense to keep going. And then after that, they bounce back. Jordan Thompson, after all the crap that he got on Saturday, especially with the 2 errors that he had that RBI single to get it going. Tigers put up 6 runs, and then after that, the floodgates just opened up. You saw Dylan Cruz. Everybody got a base hit. Even Jared Jones, he caught a base hit. I think every starter had an RBI or multiple RBIs at that rate. They all scored a run and had an RBI. Yeah, we saw Gorilla Ball in the full swing. We saw Josh Pearson get him one. We saw Braden Joubert send one to the moon. Since 2009, it's been 14 long years of waiting. They avenged the 2017 of what they couldn't do. And LSU Fighting Tigers, 7th national championship. They had their celebration already. They unveiled a new Intimidator. It's not really new. It's just temporary. And then we'll see the new one whenever the season rolls on. But I would have to say this just reminded me so much of the 2019 football season, of how much talent was on this, how really dominant they were, especially with the wire being preseason number 1 to finishing number 1 in the polls too.
Well, if you think about it, the comparison, the leaders of the team, whether it be Paul Skeens or Dylan Cruz, however you want to look at it, is going to be drafted number one next week. And in 2019, Joe Burrow was also drafted number one.
Yeah.
So it's
Dylan Cruz pretty much won the Heisman of baseball.
right, the Gold Spikes Award. And then you had Jay Johnson earned Coach of the Year, which I believe in 2019, old Coach O got Coach of the Year in football. And of course, the offense was just dominant throughout the whole year, like both football and baseball. And you mentioned Kim Mulkey and women's basketball. They scored 102 in the championship. I mean, 18 is equivalent to scoring 102 points in a basketball game, if I'm being honest. One thing that really I loved to see was when Jordan Thompson came up to bat and that second inning, and the crowd started chanting his name. You knew who the Tiger faithful were. They weren't giving up on him. Yeah, and he comes up there and delivers, gets his first RBI. And you mentioned Ty Floyd. He was kind of an afterthought. If you think about it, if we didn't have Paul Skeens, Ty Floyd's your ace. He's your top dog on the team. And because of the greatness that Paul Skeens was, nobody really thought about Floyd. He only lost one game all year, and that was in the College World Series against Wake Forest in a 2-1 ball game. That was his first loss of the entire season. He comes out and gives us 17 Ks. The man just made himself some money for sure.
Yeah, you really brought up a good point. Everybody wants to talk about, Paul Skeens and his greatness, but I think that we look too much into that. Ty Floyd had a really good season. Right. The bullpen honestly didn't have that bad of a season. I feel like they just had 2 bad weekends. Then after that, they really turned it on. Like even at the start of the season, you had guys like Chase Shores and Garrett Edwards. I think that injuries really just haunted this team in the middle of the season. But once they got the right pieces where they are, especially with guys like Riley Cooper stepping up, Ackenhausen, Guidry, the list can go on and on and on. So many guys and so many young guys stepped up too. Guys that will be here on next year's team, and they can definitely use that experience, use that fuel to the fire to try and do this again. I don't know if they are. It's definitely going to be tough. You're pretty much losing what the 2019 football team did. You're going to lose like so many first round. It's going to be so many first round draft picks. But Jay Johnson's definitely going to have to go after the transfer portal. He's already gotten some, and we already learned about his pitching coach. So you got a really, really, really good pitching coach too. I can't really have any negatives about this team. This, was the team that we'll remember forever.
Yeah, well, of course, we'll break down the hire more on Bayou Bengal Bites over on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to the Sports Scramble YouTube for all your LSU news and your general sports news. His name eludes me right now.
Yesky.
What was it?
Nate Yesky.
Nate Yesky. He was on the staff at Arizona. Recently, Texas A&M's pitching coach. Texas A&M had a very good staff this year. You alluded to the pitching in Omaha. Before the National Championship Series, the pitching staff had pitched 46 innings in Omaha. Did not allow a run in 42 of those innings. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I mean, their only bad one was in Game 2 of the National Championship Series, and that was like pretty much throwing the B team.
Yeah, you flushed a C team, really. You flushed it, won Game 3. I mean, we won't spend too much time on
it happened a week ago, but
exactly.
We weren't new, so
right. So
we'll be able to relive it on Friday. LSU will be taking over the SEC network, and those games will be on both, the National Championship Game 3, and then we also had the women's against Iowa. So it's going to be a pretty fun Friday after we drink a lot of alcohol on tomorrow for 4th of July. We can continue our celebration on whenever the Tigers take over SEC Network.
There you go. I like to hear it. Question for you, and I think a lot of LSU fans are thinking this. Jay Johnson wins the national championship in year 2. Kim Mulkey wins the national championship in year 2. Guess who else is in year 2? Mr. Brian Kelly. Are we going LSU national championship of football? Making the early predictions?
Boy, that would be something. And like pretty much like a span of a couple of months that you get all 3 big, you get the women's basketball, and then you get baseball, and then you get football. I definitely think that the schedule sets up for this LSU football team to have success. In year 1, they were able to win the SEC West, get a taste of the SEC championship. They beat Alabama, ended up losing to Florida State, but they ended up beating Purdue pretty handily to finish off the season. But I keep saying this, that game number 1 against Florida State is pretty much a de facto playoff game. I think whoever loses that especially LSU. They cannot afford to lose that game, because I think that they can still, if they win that game, they could definitely, say like lose to Alabama. I think that they could definitely have the resume to be an 11-1 playoff team. So that game number 1 against Florida State, I do think that the SEC West is as wide open as ever. We'll get to this whenever we get to the SEC previews. Alabama's is going to be without Bryce Young, so who's going to be their quarterback? And then Georgia, I saw another article saying that, everyone's down Georgia. No one's down.
Ain't nobody down Georgia.
Calm down. You're going to go 12-0. They have the easiest schedule ever. It's nothing against them. Scheduling happens a couple of years, but it's pretty much a cupcake schedule. They're going to go 12-0. But if I had to say it now, I'd probably say no about Brian Kelly not winning the national championship. I just feel like they're just too – I don't know. I feel like LSU, if they win that first game, they can definitely get there, but it's still early. So I'll save that for my, SEC looking at our college football previews. I don't want to get too much into that. But there's definitely a really good possibility that happens, and that would be
think it'd be a win if they make it to the playoff. I think that's you look at your season, that's a success. In year 2 with a new coach, definitely. Our heavy LSU bias, but you mentioned the SEC previews. We're going to start like we did last year. We're going to start it next week once we have Wade back on the show. He's down in New Orleans taking down in the 4th of July festivities. We're going to preview every conference for college football and the NFL, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. But yeah, my prediction, LSU win a national championship every year. Jane Daniels Heisman winner. So there you go. Book it now. Place your bet. With that, let's get to our favorite segment of the week. Who got that dog in them? Tyler, I'll let you go first because mine's an easy one and it's going to allude into our MLB talk. So who's got that dog in them, Tyler?
Yeah, it's, who got that dog in them is getting pretty thin, especially with the College World Series ending. The only active sports are golf, NASCAR, and MLB, and also WNBA. But
right, exactly.
I'm going to go with my boy. He finally broke his curse, Ricky Fowler. His first win since 2019. It was an insane weekend of golf. There was, everyone was pretty much, shooting 20 under in Detroit, Michigan. The fans were getting rowdy. The fans were getting wild. We saw Max Homa get a hole-in-one. He played pretty well in Detroit, but there was a 4-man playoff, and Ricky Fowler sealed the deal with a 15-foot birdie putt. And with this win, he will now be in the Masters tournament next year. So
finally, Ricky's back.
To seeing more orange on Sundays, hopefully. But Ricky's had a phenomenal year. So Ricky Fowler, my favorite golfer in the world. I've been following him since his Oklahoma State days. So Ricky Fowler.
Tyler actually has an orange Puma hat that he wears around the house just for fun. No, it was great to see Ricky get it back. I mean, he was contending at the major last week.
Yeah.
He's been this season. He's got his new swing. He's been rocking and rolling. First win since 2019. Another name at the top there was Colin Morikawa, who hasn't won since 2021 at the Open Championship over across the pond. And that's coming up here in a few weeks. So Colin's starting to get hot. Maybe we'll see him repeat over at the Open Championship. Good pick for who got that dog in him. I didn't place a golf bet, but I really thought about putting some money on Ricky Fowler. I wish I would have. My pick, and we kind of get into our baseball talk, is Mr. Domingo Germain, or German. I don't know how you say his last name. Pitcher for the New York Yankees. Throws, I believe it's the 12th perfect game since in the 2000s era. A 24th perfect game, I believe, in MLB history. I might have those stats mixed up. 99 pitches is all it took for him to get 27 straight outs. Near impossible. It's only happened 24 times in the history of baseball. So, Domingo, you are my dog of the week. Of course, we'll get Wade and Futches and throw it up on Twitter. But if you're watching in the chat, let us know who your dog of the week. Like Tyler said, it's slim pickings right now. So we'll take anybody. So get into baseball. You got some all-star voting wrapping up. They were announced. The game is next Tuesday night. What is that, the 10th or the 11th? Up in Seattle.
Something like that.
So to wrap up the American League starting lineup, catcher, you have Jonah Heim for the Texas Rangers. First base, Yandy Diaz, Tampa Bay Rays. Second base, Marcus Semien for the Texas Rangers. Third base, Josh Lung for the Texas Rangers.
All right.
Shortstop, can you guess it? For who? The Texas Rangers.
Texas
For a
Rangers.
Seager. I mean, golly. And then of course outfield of Mike Trout, Los Angeles Angels. Outfield Aaron Judge, New York Yankees, which he's hurt. So I haven't seen who's going to be filling in.
We'll have to get a replacement.
Right. He's got a torn ligament in his toe. That can't feel good. And Randy Arozarena. I don't even know if I said that name right, for the Tampa Bay Rays. And your DH is Shohei Ohtani, who's also, I believe, going to be pitching. And he plays none less than the Los Angeles Angels. So the Rangers are rounding out four of the 9 starters. Then you go to National League. We've got catcher Sean Murphy for the Atlanta Braves, Tyler's guy. Freddie Freeman used to be Tyler's guy from the Los Angeles Dodgers, playing first base. Second base, Luis Arias, Miami Marlins. Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals, playing third. Orlando Arcia, former Biloxi Shucker and now Atlanta Brave, playing shortstop. Rondell Acuna Jr., Atlanta Brave, playing outfield. Corbin Corral, Arizona Diamondbacks, and Mookie Betts rounded out the outfield for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And JD Martinez, Los Angeles Dodgers' designated hitter. So it's a lot of Braves and a lot of Texas Rangers in the starting lineup. Tyler, that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't surprise me. The Rangers have really been off to a good start until they are, have hit a bit of a rough patch. They just lost, I believe, 3 out of 4 to the Astros. They lost today when they were down 6-0. They tied it, and it was 10-10, and then all of a sudden the Astros won. So maybe that's the turning the wheels there for the Astros. Yordan Alvarez is hurt for them, so that's a ball club that's been dealing with injuries to start. I think that they're definitely going to turn it around. But yeah, the Texas Rangers doesn't surprise me. That's a star-studded lineup. We're just missing Josh Smith, of course.
He'll be up there eventually.
He'll be up there. But yeah, I'm not surprised, especially the Braves. The Braves have just been cooking in the month of June. They were one of the best teams, if not the best team in all of baseball, and then they're continuing that in the month of. I personally gave my vote with Matt Olson over Freddie Freeman, not because I'm biased or anything, but
I don't know. It sounds like there's some bias there.
Matt Olson is really just like hitting every baseball, and it's just nuclear. Freddie Freeman's also having a good season as well. So maybe just didn't want like too many of they probably looked at the AL like there's already enough Rangers people. Maybe we should tone it down there for the Braves. But Atlanta already, they still have some of those guys I just mentioned. They have 8 players in total going there, and we saw the D-backs players too. We saw a Marlins player. Like we probably the start of the season, we wouldn't even
tell you the last time we saw a Marlins player on an All-Star lineup.
Probably Sandy Alcantara last year, whenever he was a Cy Young candidate. But the Arizona Diamondbacks is another surprising team. I would have not saw that team being first in the NL West, and the San Diego Padres, with all the talent they brought in, third and not even 500. So it's definitely been a crazy season. But I'm definitely excited to see some parity on, the Cincinnati Reds with Elly De La Cruz. I would like to see him on the All-Star.
I think it just came up too soon.
Yeah, he just really came up. But next year, Elly De La Cruz is definitely going to be in this game.
Yeah, I mean, for someone, I've been following college baseball a lot more recently. I'm about to start getting into MLB, but De La Cruz, my goodness. I mean, he comes out of nowhere, and he's tattooing every baseball. I mean, you look at he hits one 450 feet, then Shohei Ohtani's hitting one like 490 feet. I mean, they're just like it's an arms race out there. I mean, Shohei just hit his 31st home run of the season, leads the Major League Baseball. Do you think he breaks Aaron Judge's record?
He's definitely on pace to. At this time, Aaron Judge was at 30 home runs. So Shohei Ohtani has one more. He had 30 home runs going into the All-Star break. So there's still a couple of games left to play for Shohei. I'm going to say I think that he definitely breaks the record. I think he's going to break it by not, like 10 or 20. It's going to be just a sneak of their hair. And then all the college football fans are going to be pissed off at their TV screens again when they cut in on, is Shohei Ohtani going to break the record? Like, golly, just please don't ever do that to us again when we're trying to watch a college football game on noon. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani, I definitely think that he's going to go after it. And ultimately, I think that he's going to break it. And it's crazy. Like, that was like a multi-year record that hasn't even been touched. And Shohei might not even take a full year to beat it. So that's just insane.
What was the final number from Judge last year?
I think it was like 60, 66, 67, something around
I
there.
want to say it was 67.
He like barely like broke it, but he broke
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, all you gotta do is break it. So
Yeah, that's all that
uh,
matters.
it is insane what Shohei's doing. And then you got Ronald Acuna lighting it up for the Braves. I mean, he's on pace for 80 steals, 40 homers. You think he gets
Yeah,
it?
I mean, yeah, I think that, the past couple of years he's been going for the 40 steals and 40 home runs. But 2 years ago, he tore his ACL at the end of this last year. He just wasn't 100%. You're now
Right.
seeing 100% Ronald Acuna. I mean, if there was like a full MVP race, I know that they do. AL is probably going to be Shohei. NL for sure is going to be Ronald Acuna. I think that even his teammate Matt Olson's going to give him a run for their money. But right now, Ronald Acuna is at 39 steals. They're playing right now, so who knows if he might have 40 or 41. And
He
at 40
probably
home
does.
runs, he has 21. So I think,
He's
19
I think
home
he's
runs.
definitely going to
Yeah,
break it
he's
here.
going to break that with ease. 80 steals, though, that's definitely crazy to think. He's almost at 40 without the halfway point. I definitely think I can see you might as well go big. I think that Shohei Ohtani is going to break Aaron Judge's record. I think that Ronald Acuna is going to have a season that we're all going to remember. Is he going to get to 80 steals? I probably wouldn't say so. I would give him 70. But I do think that he gets like 45 homers by the end of the season. I think that ultimately he'll earn NL MVP honors, which he's been close, but I definitely think the way that he's been playing at the top, the way that the Braves team has been playing lately, you just got to give it to Acuna.
So Acuna won't come anywhere close to the MLB season record for steals. Hugh Nicole in 1887
Man,
stole 138 bases.
or the
So
catchers weren't even throwing to second base at that point.
I don't know. Maybe it was illegal to have a pickoff move. I mean, because 138 is insane when we're talking about Acuna.
That's not ever going to be touched.
Yeah, all the way back in 1887. So that's a little wild. I mean, I might have done it in high school. I had some speed, but wasn't 138. But
That's insane.
of course, we mentioned All-Star Week is next week. My favorite event during All-Star Week is the Home Run Derby on Monday. This year, there's still a few more participants to be announced, but we have Adley Rutschman, Pete Alonso, Randy Arozarena, Mookie Betts, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Julio Rodriguez. Tyler, early picks to take it.
I feel like, it's in Seattle. He knows this park so well. I know that Pete Alonso has been in this like the 2 times.
Also going for his third.
I feel like the underdogs in this one is obviously Randy Arozarena. He doesn't have that light tower power the guys that Ali Rutschman and, Alonso have, who can just, blink and it goes 500 feet in the air.
Right.
But I think, at the seeding, Ali Rutschman's probably going to be like the 4 or the 5. Alonso will probably be the 1 seed since he's a 2-time champ. So I'm just going to give it to a Julio Rodriguez. I think that he's going to feed off the crowd and the energy. And then he's just a star. Like he's getting lost into all the talk about Acuna this season and Ellie De La Cruz. But people forget he was an absolute beast last season with the Mariners. And while the Mariners aren't really a good team, they're getting passed up by the Rangers in their division, the Angels too. I think that Julio Rodriguez, he's just as good as a ball player as we've talked about.
I was going to pick Julio Rodriguez, and I wanted to pick somebody else just to be different. But I think with it being in Seattle, it means a ton. Wasn't he like the 8th seed last year?
Yeah,
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have that same magic, especially in his home stadium. But yeah,
I just want to see De La Cruz in this. Like, I don't care if he's
really
put him in.
Well, hopefully he keeps that light tower power going for next year. I'd like to see Shohei compete in it.
We saw him a couple of years ago. He didn't really do too good, though. I think he got bounced in the first round by Juan Soto. So maybe he's like, I don't know if I want to do that again.
Maybe you
got to think about it. It's already a long season. And like the home run derby, it's like you're pretty much just trying to go for the fences.
Right.
The home run derby, we've seen a lot of guys go back in the slumps because their timing is off. They're trying to hit home runs every time they go up to the plate, not, trying to get one to the gap. So I feel like that's also another
might be a
reason why a lot of guys are passing up on it. And, it's a long season. It's a rest all-star break for a reason. They actually want to break, not
Right.
spin like, 4 rounds. It's like 4-minute rounds too. So it's pretty much, 30 plus swings every round that you're swinging. So it could definitely, affect the body. So kudos to those who do it. But I definitely get those who don't, especially the big names we haven't seen yet do this event.
No, I mean, it's a good argument to be made. I missed the, when they only had 10 outs, so you
That
didn't hit
was
10 home run you hit 10 pop flies, boom, you're done. You might not even hit a home run.
Josh
4
Hamilton
minutes.
had the most insane rounds, and I still remember it.
Yep, I'm with you. The 4 minutes is a long time to be swinging a bat, so you
At
gotta
least
think
they
of
get a
just
timeout,
full.
but
That's right, they do get one, but it's just full speed. I did it with my player in MLB The Show, and I hit 2 home runs. So, it's tough even in a video game, but let us know your picks. Of course, we'll be watching next week. Well, and it's on Monday, so depending on the time, we may be watching it live on
live
the
coverage of
live
the home
show.
run derby.
Exactly. We'll do some live check-ins to see who's winning. But I mean, baseball's in full swing. It's really like you said, one of the only sports that's in full swing. So of course, we'll have some more baseball content coming for you. But it's July. It's almost August, and you know what that means. Fantasy football. People are starting to get that itch. I'm starting to, start get my withdrawals starting to shake. We're gonna start up our fantasy football expert Tyler with his fantasy football corner. I got an email yesterday as I was sitting in the pool from Tyler. It was very professionally written. Good afternoon. Here are the top, what is it? Top 20, 50 players at each position that you sent me.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're going to start with the top running backs this year. I'm going to read out the top 5, and I've got some questions on them, but we'll let you break it down. So first off, let's start. You've got them in tiers: tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. What were your rankings going into for the tiers? How did you
Yeah, so I
decide that?
think I think you see like a lot of the major fantasy sites do this tier rankings, and I definitely think it helps. You need to, fantasy football players need to really realize the drop off. Like I mentioned last year with the RB dead zone, the RB. People are bashing me about the RB. Every
Right.
year it's really hard to predict, what's the best really strategy. It's going to change year in, year out. Last year, all the talk was about running backs, and Jonathan Taylor was arguably the number 1 overall pick. Didn't have the season that he wanted. He had that bum ankle. It was a lot of injuries. Really did that. So this year too, also is just really, really wide open. I think this is like the most wide open I have seen fantasy. With the running backs, I think that it's not really top heavy as you really think it is. I think that there's definitely a lot of running backs, in the top 20 that you could definitely start as RB1 and RB2. And then with the wide receivers, we'll get into, in the coming weeks, is I think that the wide receivers also has a big drop off. So I think that there's some more drop off of the receivers this year than the
Okay.
running backs this year.
So you're thinking you got to go wide receiver heavy first at the beginning
Yeah,
of the drafts is what.
for
Okay,
sure.
so let's go through these. I've got them on the screen
I
here.
like it.
We're bobbing and weaving. I'm my own producer, so I had to adjust here. Well, we got number 1, which I was surprised to see him, but he makes sense. In the offseason, he did request a trade, or there was rumors of a trade being requested. And I was like, why? I mean, he's got a pretty good gig over there in LA. You got Austin Eckler, Los Angeles Chargers, who openly says that
Mhm.
he plays to help out your fantasy team. So why is he number 1 for you, Tyler?
Yeah, we haven't seen Austin Eckler. Whenever you see Austin Eckler, he's behind Christian McCaffrey. Last year, he was behind Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. So we haven't really seen him at the top spot. But I know that the age is always a factor with the running back. Running backs, once they get to age 30 season, that's whenever they start hitting their drop offs, and that's why a lot of fantasy guys, like last year I was talking about Travis Etienne. He had a really good season. Kenneth Walker, he had a
Right.
good season. Brees Hall was having a breakout season, even then he tore his ACL. So we really didn't get to really get the full picture of Brees Hall. But Austin Eckler, there's just really no competition outside of him. You just got to look at the offense of the Chargers. Justin Herbert, I talked highly about him last year. He didn't really produce what I thought he was going to be. I thought that he was ultimately going to be the quarterback 1. I had a lot of faith in the Chargers, but ultimately the Chargers feel a lot of expectations, but if you look at this offense, you got guys at the wide receiver, you got your big three, you got Quentin
Well,
Johnston.
look at these receiving yards here. I mean, he's got
Yeah.
596
And
compared to all.
that's really one of the main points I have him. He is just a receiving yardage, and he's really consistent. If the Chargers are inside the 5, he's going to get the ball. No one else is going to get him. They really don't have a guy after them. Whenever they're at the 1, I feel like Austin Eckler is always scoring the touchdown. I feel like every year that I'm facing this guy, every week that I have to face him, he's getting a touchdown. I feel like he's just very consistent. So I feel like this Chargers offense is going to evolve into I think that Justin Herbert, he's going to have a bounce back year. I just feel confident about this Chargers offense. It was an off year for them last year. I just don't see that happening. There's just too much talent. I think that Austin Eckler, no competition. I know that he's getting, almost closer to his age 30 season, but I think that he still has got a lot of tank. So, I know that a lot of people have CMC as number 1, but I want to be different. So, Austin Eckler, he's very consistent. So, that's my number 1 running back going into this season.
And are these receiving yards last year, or this is the projection?
This is the projected. This is all projections as you see on your screen there. So, as we can read it off, 9.6 rushing touchdowns, 861 rushing yards, over 500 receiving yards. You hardly ever, if you're in a PPR league,
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, if you're in a PPR league, and especially in a half PPR, even if you have the PPR, you want guys that not only can get you rushing touchdowns but receiving touchdowns, because those guys can be league winners. And Eckler could definitely be one of those guys this year.
Oh, I like it. I mean, I have the number 2 pick in our league this year because I sucked it up last year. So
we all did, except for Jacob. Sports Scramble did not have a really good fantasy.
That is true. That is true. We start this fantasy football, think we're professionals, and we just sucked.
Yeah,
so
it was an
listen to us if you want to. We've learned from our mistakes. So let's put it that way. So number 2 is who shocked me. Bijan Robinson. We haven't seen anything from him. Of course, he's great at Texas, but he fits in this offense. That's what's giving you the confidence to put him as the number 2 running back this year?
Yeah, I think that this is going to shock a lot of people when we put this video out, that I have Bijan over Christian McCaffrey and I have Eckler over both of these guys. But I am very, very high on Bijan Robinson. Like you said, he's a rookie. But it's not like we haven't seen really good rookie seasons. Saquon Barkley had a really good season. Even, CMC had a really good rookie season. Even with the injuries, he was a top 5 running back. So I think that looking at the Atlanta Falcons offense, with Desmond Ridder, there's definitely some quarterback concern. Desmond Ridder is like Patrick Mahomes or anything. He's just going to be a game manager. So you're looking at the receiving core for the Falcons, it's pretty much Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and that's about it. So there's not.
Can you really even count Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, you can attest to that from last year. But if you really look at
the past 2 years, I've drafted that pool.
If you really look at the receiving core, it's just not a receiving core that's going to get a lot of touchdowns. We'll get to Drake London when we get to some of my breakout candidates. But if you look at the past 2 running backs, we've seen Cordell Patterson the past couple of years. We haven't even, before he was on the Atlanta Falcons, did we ever talk about him in fantasy? No. I think that's the Atlanta Falcons system. Yeah, I think it's the Atlanta Falcons system. They love to run the ball. Their head coach, insists that we are going to run the football. And the offensive line, as much as what the bats about them, they really can get between the tackles. And whenever they get inside the red zone, inside the goal line, they're going to keep running the football until they get into the touchdown zone. So looking at, the running backs, Cordell Patterson has pretty much worked his way out. He's now in his age 30 season. I think that he's slowly going on, the edge of his career.
Right.
Tyler Algier, he had a really fantastic season last year. He really got overshadowed by Cordell Patterson. Patterson really got most of the carries at the start of the season. Then we started to see Algier. So I do think that there could be possibility of concern of Tyler Algier, stealing some catches. But the Atlanta Falcons took Bijan Robinson at 7 for a reason. They're going to put him as their bell cow running back. And not only I think that he can be a top 5 running back, but I wouldn't even put it past that he could finish as the RB1 with how much,
Bold
even at the rushing
prediction,
yards, you
Tyler.
see that 1,156 projected yards. That is just insane for a rookie. So
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
it's bold, but I love to be bold when looking at fantasy. So Bijan comes in at number 2.
Fantasy football expert here, Tyler. Taking Bijan Robinson, number 2. Number 3, doesn't come as much surprise that he's in
Yeah.
this top 5. Christian McCaffrey, of course, he's on the 49ers now. We saw what happened when he was traded there in the middle of last season. I mean, he's just going to do his thing. He's going to get you a ton of rushing yards. He's going to be a factor in the passing game. Why is he your third guy?
Yeah, he's really my third guy. When really ranking out this, I look at upside, so that's why I had Bijan over Christian McCaffrey. I just think that Bijan is going to get more, carries. I think that the 49ers offense, with Brock Purdy, with his injury, what is he even going to play this season? And then Trey Lance, he's also dealing with injury. So you don't even know what quarterback is.
Christian McCaffrey might play quarterback.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey might have to play quarterback. But like you mentioned, you definitely know now that what you're going to get at McCaffrey. As much as we like to bash about him on his injuries, he's been one of the most consistent, fantasy running backs. Even if he's hurt, he's been one of the most productive fantasy running backs. So I think that he's very consistent. If you're like at pick number 2, pick number 3, definitely take him. I know that a lot of people are going to take him because he's a safe pick. So I think that Christian McCaffrey, he does it all. He's pretty much like a clone of what you see with Austin Eckler. He's, he can, he has definitely more bursts than Eckler.
Right.
Whenever he gets between the tackles. That pick. I know that he's number 3, but since, just because he's number 3 doesn't mean that he's going to be one of the top fantasy running backs. So Christian McCaffrey, definitely a safe pick, especially if you're at the top of the draft.
Right. I won't be making fun of anybody if they take him number 1 this year. Last year, everybody was shocked. But he's held up so far. Yeah. We saw he can do when he's healthy. Of course, you pray everybody's healthy this year, but
now
that's not how it works out.
Now he's on a better offense. Like in Carolina, he was very limited. Coach. He's better coaching. Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offensive gurus in the league, and I think that Christian McCaffrey, he's just really safe.
You don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but for him it doesn't matter because he might be playing it. So let's get to your fourth guy, Saquon Barkley. I think he's still holding out for that contract. Is he playing week 1, Tyler?
We're definitely going to hope so since I have him in my top 5. Right. But, Saquon Barkley, like Christian McCaffrey, his NFL career has been riddled with injuries. But last year, he really popped off. Whenever he's healthy, he can be, one of the elite fantasy running backs at the top. I don't think that he's going to go as early as the 3 guys that I mentioned above. Barkley has been, in the mock drafts that I have been in. He's either been at, the end of round 1 or at the turn. I think if Saquon Barkley is at, the turn of round 2, I would definitely, pick him over guys like Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. I just think that he has the upside, especially in the receiving game. We talk about Christian McCaffrey. Saquon Barkley can also be that in the receiving game. The Giants wide receivers have been up and down. They have some young talent, but they just haven't been able to produce that. Daniel Jones' top target has been Saquon Barkley, especially last season. So I think that Saquon Barkley is now fully healthy. The contract talks, I think he's ultimately going to get a contract done. I think that he's happy to be a New York Giant. I think that the Giants and that division, the Eagles and the Cowboys got first shadow. But don't forget, this team made the playoffs last year and beat Minnesota Vikings, who have a lot of offensive talent.
Shocked everybody.
Shocked everybody.
Me.
So, Saquon Barkley, especially, I wouldn't call him a first-round running back, but at the start of the second round, if he's there, I would definitely take him.
I like it. And round out number 5, we're just going to do the top 5. Of course, we have this whole cheat sheet. Yeah. If you want access to the cheat sheet, all you got to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel and comment that you want it. And get in touch with us, DM us on Twitter. Send us your email. I mean, you can put your email in the comments if you want to do that. You might have some weirdos emailing you at 11 o'clock at night. Won't be me. But we'll send it to you. We want to help our listeners. Unless you're in our league, we want to help you win. So, Matt Jones, I know you're watching, Matty Ice. You don't get access to the cheat sheet. That's for sure. But rounding out number 5, someone who was kind of a shocker last year, Tony P. The big T, Tony Pollard, he doesn't have his Ezekiel Elliott. He was released from the Cowboys, wasn't he? He's still floating around trying to find a team. So it's Tony's town. Why is he your number 5 guy?
Yeah, just the same reason that you said, no Ezekiel Elliott. And in the NFL draft, they didn't draft a single running back. So I think that Mike McCarthy is definitely all in. He's putting all the chips in on Tony Pollard. And I have been saying this for years. Tony Pollard, to me, has just been the overall better running back than Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott flourished, though, whenever you get to the red zone. But if you own Tony Pollard, you're just like, man, this guy just has elite talent. When he gets
he got you
to
down
open
the field.
Space, he gone.
Yeah.
No one's catching
dude's
him.
got burners.
And
He's
then in the
got
receiving game,
absolute
too,
weird.
I feel like all my top 5 options can be an elite threat in the receiving game. Probably outside of Bijan, he's more of a between the tackler runners. He kind of reminds me of a Derrick Henry type of build. Right. But if you're looking at Tony Pollard, I think that if you're looking at like the maximum points, this guy can give you insane touchdown runs, 50 plus yards. I'm saying he has an elite level speed.
He gets you like bonuses, that's for sure.
Yeah, he can definitely give you a lot of bonuses. So I just feel like Tony Pollard this season's going to be unleashed. Now I know people are like, why do you have him over Derrick Henry? Well, Derrick Henry and the team. Have you seen the Titans' offense? They're not very good.
They do rely on Henry a lot, but I think the workload has started to wear down on him. He's not who he was.
Yeah, and Tony Pollard is very young. So I think that he's definitely in his prime compared to Derrick Henry. So I boosted over him. I'm not saying that Derrick Henry is a bad running back at all. He's
he ain't no scrub. Don't say
he's
that.
He's still King Henry for a reason.
But arm you through the screen if he's
if I'm looking at top 5, one upside, Tony Pollard just screams upside to me. So like you mentioned, no Zeke, feed me Tony.
Did Tony just sign a contract? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, he might have signed a contract extension. If he doesn't, he's going to have an insane season, and the Cowboys are going to be like, write the check and put how many numbers you want on it.
As many rushing yards as you get, we'll just add some zeros to it. So, well, that's our top 5 for the 2023 fantasy football season. Of course, you get it all from us. We'll be your show. We'll be your guys for the entire season. Next week, I think we're going to do top 5 wide receivers that Tyler has put together. Maybe we'll mix in some pictures, some graphics, some slideshows.
Yeah.
Get it rolling. Of course, and then after that, we'll have quarterbacks, tight end. I think we'll combine defenses and kickers because that's going to be a lot of kickers to talk about.
We'll do the units. We'll call that.
Yes, exactly. So, fantasy football season. It's a wonderful time. I'm looking forward to it, as always, and I'm looking forward to trying to beat y'all again this year. Other football news, Foster Moreau announced tonight that he's in full remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma, so congratulations, Foster. We're as LSU fans, of course, Saints fans, he signs with the Saints in the offseason. We are very happy to hear that, and it was just, it was tough news. It's hard news for anybody to get that sort of diagnosis. But 3, 4 months later, 5 months, not too long, he's in full remission. So that's great. He's beat it. Now he's going to get back on the field and start beating teams. So congratulations, Foster. To wrap up the show, we got a little bit of basketball talk. Of course, we're in the off season. Last week or 2 weeks ago, they announced Ja's suspension. We've had the Zion Williamson drama with his stripper baby mama and then his former adult actress with her. Just look on Twitter, and I think that will paint the story. She got Zion tattooed down her chin.
You can use one of your 600 Twitter tweets per day.
Yes. I haven't reached my limit yet, so that's probably
I haven't either.
But yeah, Elon Musk cracking down on the tweets per day. So Zion, I don't think the Pels trade him, but Damian Lillard has officially requested a trade, and guess who's shopping around? The Pelicans. There apparently have been some calls that have been made. Do we see a CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard reunion, Tyler, down in NOLA?
We definitely could. I think that the Pelicans, if they want to win now, this would definitely complete the puzzle. But it would either have to take either Brandon Ingram or Zion. And if I have to choose, I honestly would ship off Zion. I know it's crazy.
I agree with you.
But have you seen Brandon Ingram? And he's one of the best. He just reminds me so much of Kevin Durant, with his mentality, his shooting ability in the paint, especially. So I just think that the Pelicans have just almost reached the point that they're just sick of dealing with Zion. I feel like year after year, like in the preseason, like, oh, this is finally going to be the year. The Pelicans going into this season, at the start of the season, they were first in the Western Conference standings, and everyone's like, okay, this team is definitely going to be, a challenge. And then Zion gets hurt in January again. And then the Pelicans, what happens? They pretty much, fight their way into the play-in game, and then they ultimately lose to the Thunder. And then they get the 14th pick in the NFL draft. I'm not the NFL draft. We've been talking so much about
the NFL draft.
The NBA draft, which they did have a good pick with Jordan Hawkins. He's definitely going to be an elite shooter for them. Right. But, yeah, that's pretty much. They're just going to get probably, Trey Murphy, a Zion package, something like that, or a couple of first-round picks. It's definitely going to be a haul to get, a player like Damian Lillard. He's one of the best shooters of all time. It's Dame time. He's always clutch, especially when his team gets into the playoffs. So I think that the Pelicans, all the teams like the Clippers, Timberwolves, Celtics, and Pelicans, I definitely think they have the young talent and the package that the Portland Trailblazers are going to look for. I saw today that Brian Windhorst of ESPN, that he said that the Heat don't even have a package that Portland wants. So that's definitely surprising. I thought that the Miami Heat would have been on the phone call first. So if that eliminates Miami, then who knows at this point? I mean, it's definitely going to take a haul, though.
Well, if it eliminates Miami, I think the other two teams were, or the other three teams were Clippers, Timberwolves, Pelicans. Yeah. Clippers would be interesting to see.
Clippers, they're trying to get James Harden. There's some rumors circling around there that he could join forces with PG and Kawhi.
I think that would probably be the best move for James.
It'd be a cheaper move.
Definitely. Timberwolves, of course, they just extended Anthony Edwards' contract. Celtics was another name. They lost Marcus Smart. He was traded.
I just don't know if they have a package.
Right.
I just feel like out of all those 4 teams, the Pelicans have like the young talent in the core that really flashes like, ooh, that's like the most that the most that they can get, because the Blazers, are pretty much in tank mode at this point. If they're getting rid,
you got to think Portland's in the rebuild.
Yeah, and they're going to want a lot of draft capital. They want a lot of first-round draft picks. That way they can get some more young talent, because after they get rid of Damian Lillard, that's going to be a team that's going to be rotten, probably going to be in the lottery until, they get the core that they really want to.
Right. I mean, I'd love to see Dame time and Zion on the court at the same time, but I don't imagine a world where the Pelicans can get Damian Lillard and keep both Brandon Ingram and
one
Zion
of them's going to have to go.
And I think the longer you hold on to Zion, his what am I trying to say here? His value goes down, right? Yeah. And so I think if they're interested in him, you got to send them. It could be the biggest mistake in New Orleans Pelicans history.
Or if he gets hurt every year like he's been, then that's a steal.
It's a gamble you gotta take, and I'm glad I am not the GM. The other free agency news: Kyrie Irving re-signed with the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think Mavs fans are too thrilled about that.
Like, get out of here. Go to the Lakers.
Right. Fred VanVleet from the Raptors down to the H-Town Rockets with Dylan Brooks. They spent a lot of money. Yeah. You think that puts the Rockets back in contention here, Tyler? Should I be traveling back to make some games?
I'm really liking the core of that Houston Rockets. They already have Jabari Smith. They got our boy Tari Eason.
Yes.
Who's going to be a stud. Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. I mean, the way that you look at this division, the Grizzlies, they added a couple of guys smart. They also signed D Rose too, who I feel like has been playing forever.
Right.
He's probably on the back end of his career. It's probably his final stint.
It might be the veteran that Ja Morant needs to maybe
while he's gone.
Get him checked in.
Yeah, and no more Tyus Jones for them, so maybe Derrick Rose can step into that starting point guard role there. So I think looking at the division, you had the Pelicans. You had the Spurs, who with Victor Wembanyama, they're going to be a couple of year rebuild still. And then you got the Mavericks with Luka Doncic, but you just don't, is he going to get pissed off like Damian Lillard did that we're not winning and I want to trade? So you just don't know. So I think give the Rockets a couple of years. I think they're slowly building a core that could definitely sneak them in, into the play-in too.
I think Fred VanVleet definitely catapults them. into
Yeah,
that.
he was
that
big for the
conversation.
Raptors title
Yep.
run. Everyone wants to talk about, Lowry in that run, but Van Vliet in the playoffs, especially in the finals, he really cooked.
Exactly. So, NBA offseason, Wild Wild West. I mean, they had one of the reporters, Shams, his screen time was at like 19 hours a day. I mean, come on,
I
man.
wonder what Woj's
Five,
is, dropping
yeah, for
Woj
real.
bombs left and right.
I mean, that's 5 hours of the day for you to sleep. I mean, that's insane. So, but that's all I got, Tyler. That's kind of that wrap.
Yep.
Not a whole lot of sports going on, a lot of off seasons, a lot of trade talk. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're excited for fantasy football starting back up. We're going to keep it going every week. Get into our previews for college football and the NFL. That's where we really that's our core. So of course SEC bias, but we'll have all of the divisions for the college football NCAA season. Tyler, enjoy your 4th of July. Stay
Yep.
safe. All our listeners, we appreciate you watching. Remember, call an Uber. NASCAR Neil told me before the show he's got an Uber lined up. So don't drink and drive. Don't do
There you
anything
go.
stupid to ruin your life. Call an
And
Uber.
stay safe away from fireworks.
Yes.
Please.
Who is it from? He's on the Buccaneers now, Mr. Three Finger Combo.
Oh, JPP. I think he's
J-
not on the Bucks anymore, but
I think he might be retired. But
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to mess with fireworks. I saw a video on TikTok yesterday.
I did too.
The fireworks tipped over, shot over to the car where the box of fireworks was.
Yeah, don't put a bunch of fireworks by a car. That's just stupid.
Yeah,
I really want to see from that video the aftermath. I bet that car is just charred at this point.
Yes. Be careful with the fireworks,
Yes.
everybody. With that, we appreciate you all for watching. Drop a subscribe, like, comment. We love it. We'll see you next week.